I grew up in Hollow Creek, a small, secluded town nestled deep within the misty valleys of the Appalachian Mountains. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else, and secrets were buried as deep as the old mines that dotted the landscape. But Hollow Creek had a darkness to it, a whispering shadow that loomed over the town. It all began with the phone calls. When I was a child, my friends and I would often explore the woods surrounding the town. We were fearless, our imaginations running wild with tales of hidden treasures and secret hideouts. One summer, we discovered an old abandoned house at the edge of the forest. It was decrepit, its windows boarded up, and the paint peeling off in large chunks. Naturally, it became our headquarters. The house was known as the Whitaker House, named after the family that had disappeared without a trace in the 1950s. Rumors swirled around their disappearance. Some said they had been murdered, others believed they had just up and left. But the most chilling tale was that of the Whispers, a mysterious voice that could be heard through the walls, calling out to anyone who dared enter the house. One hot, sticky afternoon, we decided to venture inside. The air was thick with dust and the smell of decay. As we explored the dark, empty rooms, we found an old rotary phone in the attic. It was an odd find, considering there were no power lines running to the house. On a whim, I picked up the receiver. "Hello?" I whispered, half expecting silence.
Who is this?
A woman's voice responded, trembling with fear. "I'm Jake. Who are you?"
Sarah Whitaker.
She said, her voice barely audible over the crackling static. My heart pounded in my chest. Sarah Whitaker had been one of the family members who disappeared. I felt a chill run down my spine, but continued to speak. "Sarah, where are you?"
I don't know. It's dark. I think I'm in a basement. Please, you have to help me. He's coming.
I dropped the phone, my hands shaking. My friends laughed it off as a prank, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had spoken to a ghost. I returned to the house every day after that, talking to Sarah on the phone. She described a man who had taken her and held her captive. She begged for my help, her fear palpable through the static. As the days passed, the calls grew more urgent. Sarah's voice was filled with desperation, and she revealed chilling details about her captor, a man named John Harper, a prominent figure in Hollow Creek's history. Harper had been a respected town leader, but Sarah claimed he was involved in dark rituals, sacrificing people to ensure the town's prosperity. Determined to uncover the truth, I started researching Harper and the Whitaker family. I spent hours in the town's library, poring over old records and news articles. One rainy afternoon, as I combed through the dusty archives, I stumbled upon a tattered journal hidden behind a row of ancient books. The journal belonged to Edward Whitaker, Sarah's father. The entries were cryptic, filled with references to the keepers of Hollow Creek and strange rituals performed in secret. One entry stood out.
March 17th, 1950. The keepers grow more brazen. John Harper leads them. His thirst for power is insatiable. They speak of a ritual, one that requires a sacrifice. I fear for my family's safety. If only I could find a way to stop them.
My heart raced as I read on, the words painting a picture of fear and desperation. Edward had hidden his journal, hoping it would one day expose the dark truth of Hollow Creek. One entry detailed a hidden basement beneath the old Whitaker house, accessible through a concealed door in the cellar. One night I received a call from Sarah that was different from the others. Her voice was weak, barely more than a whisper.
Jake, he knows you're helping me. He's coming for you.
Fear gripped me, but I couldn't abandon her. I followed the clues, leading me to an old, abandoned mine on the outskirts of town. Armed with a flashlight and a crowbar, I ventured into the darkness. The air was damp and musty, the walls of the mine closing in around me. As I descended deeper, I heard the faint sound of whispers echoing through the tunnels. They seemed to be coming from all directions, a chilling cacophony that set my nerves on edge. Finally, I reached a large open chamber. In the center stood an altar, covered in dried blood and strange symbols. And there, chained to the wall, was Sarah. She looked just as she had described, a ghostly figure trapped in a living nightmare. Before I could reach her, a cold voice echoed through the chamber.
"You should have stayed away, Jake."
I turned to see John Harper standing in the shadows, his eyes gleaming with malevolence. He looked exactly like the old photographs I had seen, his appearance unchanged by time.
"You've meddled in things you don't understand,"
he said, stepping closer. I raised the crowbar, my hands trembling. "Let her go." Harper laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine.
"You don't get it, do you? The sacrifices must continue. The town depends on it."
With a roar, I charged at him, but Harper was faster. He knocked the crowbar from my hands and pinned me to the ground. As he reached for a knife, I felt a surge of desperation. I had to save Sarah. Using every ounce of strength, I broke free and lunged at him, knocking the knife from his hand. We struggled, our bodies clashing in the dark chamber. In a final desperate move, I pushed him into the altar. The symbols glowed with an eerie light, and Harper screamed as his body disintegrated into ash. Panting, I rushed to Sarah's side and freed her from the chains. She looked at me with gratitude and sadness.
Thank you, Jake, but it's not over. The keepers will come for you.
We stumbled out of the mine into the cool night air. The stars seemed brighter, the world a little less dark. But I knew she was right. The keepers of Hollow Creek were still out there, their malevolent influence reaching far and wide. In the weeks that followed our encounter in the abandoned mine, Hollow Creek seemed to hold its breath. The whispers of the past lingered in the air, casting a shadow over every corner of the town. Strange things began to happen, ominous signs that our battle against the keepers was far from over. It started with the letters. They arrived without warning, slipped under my door, or left on my doorstep in the dead of night. Each one was written in a jagged, frantic script, filled with cryptic warnings and veiled threats. They spoke of ancient curses and dark rituals, of secrets buried deep within the heart of Hollow Creek. I showed the letters to Sarah, and together we tried to decipher their meaning. They seemed to come from different sources, each one more sinister than the last. Some hinted at the keeper's wrath, warning us to leave town before it was too late. Others spoke of a darkness that had been awakened, a darkness hungry for vengeance. But it wasn't just the letters that unsettled us. Everywhere we went, we felt eyes watching from the shadows, shadowy figures lurking on street corners, their presence palpable yet elusive. They never approached us directly, content to observe from a distance, their intentions shrouded in mystery. Sarah and I became outcasts, our bond forged by shared trauma and the knowledge that we had only scratched the surface of Hollow Creek's dark secrets. We met in secret, seeking solace in each other's company as we tried to make sense of the nightmare that had become our reality. One night, as we walked through the deserted streets of Hollow Creek, a figure stepped out from the darkness. A man cloaked in shadows, his features obscured. Sarah gasped, her hand tightening around mine.
"You should not have meddled in our affairs,"
the figure said, his voice low and menacing. I stepped forward, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and defiance. "Who are you? What do you want?" The figure chuckled, a sound that sent chills down my spine.
"We are the keepers of Hollow Creek, guardians of its secrets. You have disrupted the balance, and now you must pay the price."
Before I could react, the figure vanished into the night, leaving behind only a lingering sense of dread. Sarah and I hurried home, our minds racing with questions and fear. Who were the keepers, and what did they want with us? Were they responsible for the letters and the shadowy figures that haunted our every move? As the days passed, Hollow Creek descended further into darkness. The town's once vibrant spirit was replaced by an eerie silence, a silence that seemed to whisper of ancient evils and forgotten sins. Sarah and I continued our research, delving deeper into the town's history in search of answers. We discovered old newspaper clippings and journal entries that hinted at a darker side to Hollow Creek, a side hidden behind closed doors and whispered rumors. Tales of disappearances and unexplained deaths stretched back decades, each one connected to the keepers in their insidious influence. One particularly chilling discovery was a series of photographs tucked away in the town archives. They showed the Whitaker family, Sarah's family, in happier times, their faces frozen in smiles that seemed to belie the darkness that had ultimately consumed them. Among the photographs was one of John Harper, his eyes cold and calculating, a stark reminder of the man who had unleashed terror upon Hollow Creek. But it was a journal entry from Edward Whitaker that sent shivers down my spine.
October 5th, 1950. They watch us from the shadows, their eyes filled with hunger. The keepers demand a sacrifice, and we are powerless to defy them. Hollow Creek will never be free until their thirst for blood is sated.
The words haunted me, their implications sinking in with chilling clarity. The keepers were not just a myth, they were real, and they were determined to protect their secrets at any cost. As Sarah and I pieced together the puzzle of Hollow Creek's dark past, we realized that our fight was far from over. The letters continued to arrive, each one more desperate than the last. The shadowy figures followed us wherever we went, their presence a constant reminder of the danger that lurked in the shadows. But through it all, Sarah and I stood together, united by our determination to uncover the truth and put an end to the Keeper's reign of terror. We knew the risks, we knew the stakes, but we refused to back down. And so, as the darkness closed in around us and the whispers of Hollow Creek grew louder, we prepared ourselves for the final battle. A battle that would determine the fate of not just Hollow Creek, but our own souls as well. We left Hollow Creek hoping to start anew, but even as we built a new life, the whispers never truly left us. At night, the phone would ring, and I would hear Sarah's voice calling out from the past. It was a reminder that some secrets are never truly buried, and some evils never die. Years passed, and I tried to move on, but the shadows of Hollow Creek followed me. One evening, as I sat alone in my apartment, the phone rang. It was the same old rotary phone I had found in the Whitaker house, now a relic of my past. Hesitant, I picked up the receiver. "Hello?" I whispered, my voice trembling.
Jake, it's Sarah. They found me again. Please, you have to help me.
My blood ran cold. I had thought we were safe, that the horrors of Hollow Creek were behind us, but the keepers were relentless, their grasp on the town unyielding. "Where are you?" I asked, fear gripping my heart.
I'm back in the mine. Please, hurry.
I knew what I had to do. I couldn't leave her to face the darkness alone. Armed with nothing but my resolve, I returned to Hollow Creek, the town that had haunted my dreams for years. The streets were just as I remembered, shrouded in mist and silence. As I approached the mine, I felt the weight of the past pressing down on me. The entrance loomed before me, a gaping maw ready to swallow me whole. Taking a deep breath, I ventured into the darkness once more. The whispers greeted me, echoing through the tunnels, guiding me deeper into the heart of the mine. I followed them, my flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. Finally, I reached the chamber where I had last seen Sarah. She was there, just as before, chained to the wall. But this time, she looked different, paler, more ethereal. Her eyes met mine, filled with a haunting sadness.
Jake, you came.
She said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I promised I would," I replied, moving to free her from the chains. But as I reached for her, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. The chamber filled with a cold, oppressive presence. I turned to see the shadows coalescing into a familiar figure. John Harper, his eyes burning with a malevolent fire.
"You cannot escape the keepers.
He said, his voice echoing with dark power.
The sacrifices must continue."
Desperation surged through me as I fought to free Sarah. Harper advanced, his form growing more solid with each step. I could feel the darkness closing in, threatening to consume us both. In a moment of clarity, I remembered the symbols on the altar. They had reacted to Harper before, and I hoped they could do so again. I grabbed a piece of broken stone and began scratching the symbols onto the floor around us. Harper lunged at me, but I managed to complete the circle just in time. The symbols glowed with an eerie light, and Harper screamed as he was repelled by an invisible force. "Sarah, hold on," I said, continuing to etch the symbols into the floor. The light grew brighter, and the whispers turned into agonized wails. Harper's form began to disintegrate, just as it had before. With a final, ear-piercing scream, he vanished into the darkness. The chamber fell silent, the oppressive presence lifting. I turned to Sarah, who looked at me with tears in her eyes.
Thank you, Jake.
she said, her voice filled with relief.
You've set me free.
As I freed her from the chains, she began to fade, her form becoming more translucent. What's happening? I asked, panic rising in my chest.
My time is over,
She said softly.
You've broken the curse. The keepers can no longer hold me.
I watched in awe and sadness as she faded into the ether, her final words echoing in the chamber.
Live your life, Jake. Don't let the past consume you.
With Sarah gone, I left the mine, the weight of the past lifting from my shoulders. The whispers were gone, the shadows retreating. I knew the keepers were still out there, but their power had been broken, and their grip on Hollow Creek weakened. I returned to my new life, carrying the memories of Sarah and the horrors we had faced. The phone, now silent, remained a reminder of the past, a past that would never truly leave me. But I was determined to move forward and live the life Sarah had wished for me. And so I did, always mindful of the darkness that lurked in the shadows, but no longer afraid.